Hi, how are you? I'm Anthony from Cypher House Escape, and I'm back with some more of the Princeton puzzle hunt. Previously in the hunt, we've solved all but one of the character puzzles. That's this puzzle number 6 for the orange character here. And we'd solved the first 3 room puzzles. Here's the Excel sheet with all of the answers that I have so far. One thing that I noticed in one of my past videos is that all of the room answers are an item that could be used as a weapon. So I'm thinking that pattern's going to continue as we dive into the final couple of rooms that we have to solve. First up on the list for today is the bedroom puzzle called How the Tables Have Turned. So let's open that up and see how it goes. I am starting my stopwatch now. How the tables have turned. Each of these is related to a what? I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this so that we can maybe see it a little better. Each of these is related to a what? So we have some numbers up here up the top, except there's this A in here, which makes me think that maybe we're in some kind of maybe base 16 or base 12, I don't know, number system here. I'm not entirely sure. We also have these colored rectangles here. These colored rectangles almost look like they go straight through the rainbow. There's just a couple added on at the end here. And then we have these equations at the bottom of the page. How the tables have turned. Table. I wonder if this image, this background is anything? Like, I wonder if I can find what this background image is of, if that'll help me at all. Down the center of the image, there's a slight, I don't know, line? Like, there's a couple of these red dots going down in a vertical line here. They appear here in the middle of the characters as well. I don't really know if that's important. I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to have to do some fancy picture corrections to this image. Okay, here's what I'm going to try. The first thing I'm going to do is take this image over into Paint. Given that all of these numbers are either 1 or 2 digits, and again, by the fact that there's this A here, I'm thinking that these could be RGB values, which are hexadecimal color-coded values. I'm also throwing it in PowerPoint very quickly just to see if changing the brightness is going to do anything for us. Sometimes hunts will hide interesting things in their images, so I'll just usually toggle around a little bit with the color and the contrast and the brightness, and just see if anything happens to stand out. In this case, I'm not seeing anything particularly noteworthy. Okay, so back to my original idea of putting this into Paint, because of how Paint focuses everything on the left, and in fact, Excel does too. Maybe I'm going to keep the face cam over on the right. So this is for that first red rectangle here. We have RGB values of 244, 204, and 204. So each of these RGB values can be converted into hexadecimal, and that's typically how you might see these values expressed. So the first color is 244, and that converts to F4 in hex. The only problem with my theory so far about these being hex numbers is that you would expect there to be quite a few more letters. So the puzzle's called How the Tables Have Turned. What tables? Okay, this is interesting. I reverse image searched this picture that's on the puzzle page here, and it seems to be a movie poster from The Princess Bride? Scaling the cliffs of insanity, battling rodents of unusual size, facing torture in the pit of despair, true love has never been a snap. I can't quite tell if this movie poster is in some way related to the puzzle that I'm solving. This quote doesn't seem to mention colors, which is kind of the theme that I feel this puzzle has going for it. It also doesn't seem to have anything to do with this question. Each of these is related to a what. So the color wheel's a thing, and it kind of relates to turning. Okay, so here's one thing of interest that I took way too long to notice. In all of these equations down here, each color is only associated with a single number. So white is always associated with the number 60, and green is always associated with the number 6. It feels like each of these at the bottom is going to give us a letter, and that this is the final extraction. So the reason I'm not focusing too strongly on what's going on at the bottom here is because I feel like I need to know whatever's going on up top first. So also of note, there's only 7 different numbers down here in these equations, but there's 8 different color bars. So this first image would seem to indicate that these numbers mean one thing, while these colors mean another thing. Because then down here we're combining numbers with colors. Okay, so for a while now I've been stuck on what this question is referring to when it says each of these is related to a what. And I could not for the life of me figure out what these was referring to. I kept coming back to the fact that this is a picture taken from the poster of The Princess Bride. So I'm thinking that these in the question could refer to the various plights that are described here at the beginning of the poster: scaling the cliffs of insanity, battling rodents of unusual size, and facing torture in the pit of despair. So I looked up each of these instances on the Princess Bride wiki to see what they were each referring to, and I was hoping that I would find some common ground between them, that maybe these were all trials or tribulations or love quests or something that might match the enumeration that I was given here with these numbers. And then from that I was hoping I could figure out what the colors referred to and then move on. I have not done any of those things. I'm completely stuck. I don't even know if I'm on the right path with the Princess Bride. Obviously, this picture's from the Princess Bride poster, but I'm not seeing how that's related at all. I think, I mean, I'm almost at 50 minutes of making no progress on this puzzle, and that's usually where I kind of draw the line. That's usually where I say, I am not going to be able to solve this without hints or additional information. This kind of puzzle in particular is very, you get it or you don't. This is one of these initial aha puzzles where there's not really any build to get to the interesting feature or purpose of a puzzle. It's just straight from the beginning, here's some information. If it makes sense to you, great. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck. And I definitely fall into that latter category. So unfortunately, right around the 50-minute mark, I think I'm going to have to stop. So the bedroom puzzle, How the Tables Have Turned, is going to enter the same category as Map to the Stars Homes, which is to say, I will be coming back to these puzzles at a later point, maybe with hints, and I'll try to solve them again. Maybe I'll just go over the solution at the end of the hunt. But for now, I'm going to leave the answer as a question mark in my spreadsheet. I'm okay with there being a few puzzles that I can't solve in this series because I want to show how I approach puzzle hunts in general. Even with a team of fairly experienced solvers, it's very possible that there's just going to be 1 or 2 puzzles that completely stump you. One of the things that we try to do whenever we get stuck on a puzzle is to take a look at the meta puzzle and see if we can solve it even if we don't have all of the answers. So that's kind of the route that I'm going to take. I'm going to finish looking at the main puzzles, and then I'm going to look at the meta puzzle and see if I can solve it just with the information I'm given. Well, for now, let's move on to the next puzzle in the Princeton Puzzle Hunt, Mysterious Cinema. I'm going to open that up and start my stopwatch. Mysterious Cinema. Okay, so we have a Google Drive link. There is a film missing from the collection in the cinema. Noticing what these 4 scenes have in common will clue you to the director. Okay, so the 4 movies in question are Elf, Pulp Fiction, Taxi Driver, and Glass. Let's see what's at this Google Drive link. Okay, so it's a collection of scenes from the movies. And again, we have a mathematical equation down here that I'm assuming we're going to need to obtain something from each of these movies, maybe a number. Okay, so Elf was directed by Jon Favreau, Pulp Fiction was directed by Quentin Tarantino, Taxi by Martin Scorsese, and Glass by M. Night Shyamalan. So those are all very famous directors. Okay, let's take a look at what we have going on with this set of scenes here.
You gotta really hurry up, Walter, because I'm double booked the rest of the afternoon.
Am I sick?
Yeah, but that's not what we're here. We're here to do a test.
Come on, what kind of test?
Just a test to find out if you're my son or not.
Why am I sitting on paper?
Because it's sanitary for the other patients. Now sit still so I can do the finger prick.
Finger prick!
Let's get down to brass tacks. If I was informed correctly, the clock is ticking. Is that right, Jimmy?
100%.
Your wife, Bonnie, comes home at 9:30 in the a.m. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
I said, what do you think of that? Don't answer. You don't have to answer everything. I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her with a .44 Magnum pistol.
Let your dad take a walk, Jesus.
Yeah.
Hey, do I know you? Did you used to work at the football stadium?
15 years.
So on a first watch through, I had a couple of ideas. The first thing that came to mind was that we might be looking for pointy objects, because right at the end of the Elf scene, they mentioned a finger prick, and at the very beginning of the second scene, they mentioned brass tacks. So I thought that maybe we were looking for pointy things. Then in the third scene, they mentioned a gun, so I was thinking maybe we're looking for weapons. But then that all fell apart in the fourth scene because I didn't hear any mention of a weapon at all. What I did hear in the fourth scene was a mention of 15 years. So I'm wondering if maybe there was a number in each of those, which would make sense for this equation. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to give a quick listen for numbers this time.
Because I'm double booked the rest of the afternoon.
100%.
Bonnie comes home at 9:30 in the a.m.
With a .44 Magnum pistol.
15 years.
Okay, I'm thinking it's definitely numbers. In the first scene, in Elf, the only number I heard was that he said double. But that could make sense because Elf is sitting out front of this piece in parentheses, so we might just have to double what's in the parentheses there. In the second scene, there were actually a couple of numbers. At one point, the person said 100%. And then at a couple of seconds later, a different character said 930. In the third scene, he mentioned 44 for the type of gun, and in the fourth scene, he mentioned that he had been on the field for 15 years. Okay, yeah, the second scene is definitely Pulp Fiction. These two characters are standing right there in the second scene. Okay, so it took a little while to verify which scene was from each film. I'm still actually not 100% sure between Taxi Driver and Glass. Just because I couldn't identify... The one where there's the two guys in the car is actually really, really dark. I can't see the guys' faces all that well. And as for the scene in the security store, I'm pretty sure it's from Glass. I found verification that Glass filmed in a security store. Like part of the movie takes place in one. So I'm fairly confident that they go in the order that they're shown here. Elf was first, followed by Pulp Fiction, then Taxi Driver, then Glass. So there's also the confusion about the Pulp Fiction because they mentioned the number 100 as well as 930. I'm thinking I want to go with 100 there. So I'm putting in 100 for the Pulp Fiction number. I'm going to put in just a 2 for elf, because they said double. For taxi driver, they said it was a 44 revolver. And then in glass, the one man had worked at the football stadium for 15 years. So we get 20,218. Is that a movie? 20218 is a zip code in Washington, D.C. Okay, I'm gonna real quick see what happens if I try 930 for Pulp Fiction, rather than 100. We get the number 1,730,018. That looks even less like a movie. I was really hoping that this was going to come out to be a movie that is just a number, and then the director of that movie was going to be our answer. That could still be the case, and I have something wrong here, but I don't really know what it is. Starting to wonder if maybe the length of the scenes is what's important. It just seemed a little bit too perfect that every scene mentioned a number in it, like kind of highlighted as part of the scene. But I don't know, I'm gonna try it with the length of each scene, which is what I have in this second row here, and we'll see what we get from that. 264. Is that a movie? No. If it's the numbers, why are there 2 numbers in this scene? There's 3 numbers in that scene. 100, 9, 30. And there are 3 different spaces for Pulp Fiction here. Let me get rid of this. 100, 9, and 30? Assuming I put them in order? We get 1948. 1948. 1948's really close to 1984, which is a very popular movie. If we just swap the last 2 numbers, I feel relatively certain that this math is correct. So, my new thought, since 1948 isn't the name of a movie itself, as 1984 would have been, I'm thinking that 1948 might be the year that a particular movie came out. Alright. I think I'm ready with my final guess. I think I've solved the puzzle, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't really know how it works. I'm pretty sure that I need to find something else that ties these movies together in some way, and then look for a movie in 1948 that fits that particular pattern. I remembered what the puzzle also said, which is that what these 4 scenes have in common will clue you to the director. And my initial thought was I need to find the movie and then the director will be the answer. But keeping in mind that all of our answers so far for the rooms have been weapons, so I started looking into popular movies from 1948, and one of the ones that keeps coming up is Rope by Alfred Hitchcock. So I don't know what it is about those particular scenes, or what I was supposed to be finding that was supposed to lead me to Alfred Hitchcock. Maybe it listed Hitchcock films, like, as part of their dialogue. I'm not entirely sure. What I do know is that Rope is a weapon, Rope is a movie from 1948, and it's directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which is a very popular director that I would fully expect to be clued from this puzzle. So I don't really get all of the finer details, but for now, I do actually feel really confident that Rope is the final answer to the puzzle. So that about wraps it up for this video. I'm sorry if it wasn't a particularly interesting video, because I was unable to solve one of the puzzles, and the other one I obtained an answer without seemingly going through every single step. But, I mean, that's just sometimes how the puzzle hunts go. My goal of this series has been to highlight how I personally approach puzzle hunts and solve puzzles, and I mean, I feel like you're getting the honest truth of that. I don't always know exactly what the answer is, and sometimes I take educated guesses based on the information that I do have. So in the next video, we're going to finish up with the final 2 regular puzzles, the one for the art studio as well as the game room, and then after that, it's straight on to the meta puzzles. So stay tuned. I'm very excited to see how this hunt turns out. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy escaping.